I never thought I'd be reviewing an anime on this channel. However, here we are. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel Northern War recently had its first two episodes debut in Japan, and the English dub premiered on the 20th of January. I, however, had a migraine, so I had to delay my review for just a little bit. I'm finally getting around to watching it, and in this video we're going to review it. However, before we get into the heart of the review, what did you think of the first episode? Did you watch it subbed or dubbed? Let me know. Also, please note this review will contain spoilers, so if you don't want the experience spoiled for you, chapters have been used on this video and you can skip ahead to the wrap-up section of this video. With that out of the way, let's get this review started. This anime has a very slow start to it. One could argue not much actually happens in the first episode. However, if you know anything about the Legend of Heroes series, you'll know the storytelling takes a very long time to get going. This isn't a bad thing. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. The Trails series is like a Michelin star meal. You sit back and savor it, preferably with a nice wine paired with that meal. And you know what? Northern War indicates to me that's the type of anime experience it's going to be. In the first episode, we're introduced to our three main protagonists. All three members are junior members of the Northern Jaegers, who are actually a super important group when it comes to Cold Steel 3 and 4. So seeing them featured now gives a lot more depth to the otherwise faceless grunts we've been working in CS3 and 4's stories. I have to say, I love when media can retroactively make a previous experience deeper by adding new media to it. That's something Tatsunoko Productions has managed to do with this storyline. Also, for those wondering, the anime is licensed in English via Crunchyroll. Even though we've yet to see much of Lavi's story, I can wholeheartedly say I already love this character. While she doesn't say too much and seems to be a very reserved personality with the flashbacks to when she was a child and running towards her grandpa shouting for him, you can tell she was originally an extroverted and cheerful child and slowly had that stamped out of them. Something I regrettably relate to. Continuing on with Lavi, her voice actor, Sarah Roach, does a lot with the little she is given to do in the first episode. Most of the screen time is dedicated to Lavi interacting with Tak and Ivano, two characters who are clearly more senior Jaegers than she is. Tak is voiced by Nazi Tarsha, and Ivano is voiced by Brian Colt Levy. Both actors manage serviceable but not spectacular performances. However, like Levy, I'm already endeared towards Tak and Ivano, so clearly they did a good job on the characterization. Both characters are kind of dumb muscleheads who are consistently cracking jokes. Basically the comic relief, if you will. Which is probably a good thing, as it seems like Northern War is going to be a somewhat darker Trails entry in terms of feeling and content. One aspect where this can be felt is how the series has thus far shown how deadly even basic Trails monsters that players of the series will be familiar with having faced off against them numerous times when grinding. For example, drones are shown to be so toxic they're able to fell but not kill two relatively healthy adults. Other heavier themes covered by the anime so far is the North Ambrian disaster. What happened in that disaster? An object known as a salt pail appeared in the capital of North Ambria. For those not in the know, the capital is called Haliask. The salt pail ultimately turned everything within the vicinity of Haliask into salt, which led the Prince of North Ambria to flee. The flight of the prince led to a revolution within the country. This led Lavi's grandfather, known as Vlad, to be one of the revolutionaries. Geez, I wonder what that's similar to. While it's too early for me to say for sure, it seems like Lavi and her granddad had a falling out of some kind, as she seems intent on distancing herself from his legacy. She also seems surprised when Rogan brings up knowing who her grandfather was. I also have a sneaking suspicion that Rogan might prove to be this series' antagonist, even though we know the series will also frame the Erebonian Empire as the villains of the series. Speaking of the Erebonian Empire, that's what we're going to touch on next. There are references throughout the first episode to the first two games within the Erebonian arc. We know that this anime takes place between the ending of Cold Steel 2 and the start of Cold Steel 3. One of the first references we get is either Tak or Ivano, hard to tell which, making reference to the Purple Lightning. If you've played any of the Cold Steel games, you'll know that clearly references Sarah Valentine, who we know will make an appearance later on in this series. So why is it important that Sarah was referenced? It's because she's originally from North Ambria, so she's of course highly regarded by the Northern Jaegers, as she was once a part of them, something you learned during the liberation of Ruhr in Cold Steel 2. The rest of the references are small, such as ones like the Cold Steel box art being used in the title sequence, and a few small things like that. Crossbell's annexation is also mentioned. So with that out of the way, is this series a good jumping on point for Trail's newcomers? Honestly, I would say no, but you could. I say it's not a good jumping on point for newcomers because it spoils major moments from the first two Cold Steel games, and a lot of the emotional moments from those games will significantly be blunted as a result. I would, however, say you should start watching the anime right after you finish Cold Steel 2, because the events presented in this show greatly impact Reen's character development in Cold Steel 3. Basically, this show is more for the fans than it is for newcomers. So what would I rate The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel Northern War's first episode? Honestly, I'd give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. It clearly has potential, it's well animated, and it looks nice. The story thus far is intriguing as well, but as a standalone episode, not a lot happens in it. It more sets up what's coming down the road. Northern War is going to have a total of 12 episodes. But those are my thoughts on the first dubbed episode. What did you think of it? Comment below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, keep blazing that trail. And if you want to check out my other content, 2 videos will be popping up on screen now, and you can find my socials in the description.